So lubricate the new seal with coolant, and take note about the jiggle valve or the jiggle pin. Make sure it's at the 12 o'clock position. Install the thermostat into the housing. So install the gasket that comes with it. Install this dry. Do not add any RTV. Install the bolts. So I found something very strange. The aftermarket housing. It came with this gasket, but it doesn't make sense because there's already a seal here from the Ison thermostat. And this one came with a gasket, but it doesn't make sense. You can't have the seal and the gasket at the same time here. It wouldn't make any sense here. Because this is what's preventing it from coolant leaking out of this. So I'm not going to use this because the original housing did not have this. It only has the seal here, and that's it. So I'm just gonna put this and close it up. So you need to watch out for that if you're using some aftermarket parts. I'm using an aftermarket housing. Install the bolts. And we are going to torque these down later. This is the old water pump. Stamped here. It's made in Japan. I'm using the same exact parts, and they may have a variation with the stamping, but they are the same parts. I'll show you the kit, the Ison timing belt kit that I bought that we are going to be installing on this vehicle. So now what we're gonna do next is to clean the surfaces on the block. We're gonna use the 3M Scotch-Brite. We're gonna clean the surfaces here. So now after you're done cleaning the surfaces, You just want to wash down the area with brake cleaner and wipe everything down. Use a clean shop towel and wipe down the surfaces. So now you want to install the water pump. Make sure you install the gasket dry. Do not use any RTV. I have all the bolts in along with the gasket. So I got all the bolts in. I actually ended up using some of the high-tack gasket maker. It's not RTV or silicone type. It's just like a spray just to hold the gasket in place, because I had trouble trying to keep the gasket on as I put the water pump in. So the gasket, it kept on falling off. So I couldn't show that on camera. So anyhow, I got all the bolts in. I'm just going to tighten them snug, and then I'm going to torque them afterwards. I forgot to mention, I use a little bit of the high-tack spray gasket sealant on the water pump just to stick the gasket on, because I had some trouble trying to get it in. It's not that much of a big deal, because you can clean it off easily in case if the next time you want to do the water pump. Just going to tighten the bolts snug. You can work your way in a crisscross pattern or star pattern. So we're going to be torquing the water pump bolts to 9 foot-pounds. My torque wrench I have here is a 1/4 inch torque wrench. It's in inch pounds. So 12 inch pounds is equal to 1 foot-pounds. So 12 times 9 is 108 inch pounds. So I'm going to torque this to 108 inch pounds. So we're going to torque it to 108. You still need to tighten the bolts a little bit. There you go. So I installed new hose clamps on both ends, one at the thermostat housing and one at the bottom of the radiator. Now I'm going to torque the thermostat housing now. It's the same amount of torque for the water pump bolts, 9 foot-pounds or 108 inch-pounds. So now we are gonna clean everything up, clean all the oil residue and coolant and whatever that may have been left behind previously. And then we're gonna install our new pulleys and tensioner, and then we're gonna do the timing belt. Wash everything down. You don't want to get any dirt on the new timing belt, so that's why I'm cleaning everything down. Now we're gonna install the G3 pulley now, which is up here. You're just going to tighten this a tiny bit. Now we're gonna install our tensioner next. I'm going to tighten this up a tiny bit. We are going to torque this to 29. So now I'm having some trouble trying to get the belt on. I'm going to remove the tooth or the cog pulley, and I'm going to remove the bottom smooth idler pulley, and then we are going to put these on last. So now we are going to route the timing belt back on. I'm going to start at the crank. We're gonna work our way counterclockwise or anti-clockwise. So make sure that all the timing marks are lined up on the driver's side, the back of the timing cover to the mark here. And on the passenger side, the mark here onto the block straight ahead. Don't worry about this mark. This is just a rough guide only. So what you want to do is you want to bring all the slack to the bottom here. You want to bring all the slack to the bottom. So you want to make sure you bring all the slack at the bottom so that you're able to squeeze in here and put the tooth idler pulley in the bolt in here. You gotta take all the slack and bring the tension here. Make sure you don't put too much tension. You have to put the correct pressure. Otherwise, if you put too much pressure, the cams will move. Then you will need to start all over. So we're going to install the last pulley. This one is the smooth idler pulley that goes at the very bottom. This one has a lip here. So you just want to make sure that the belt rides here and not on here. So you got to slide it in. I'm going to snug this up. Torque this to 32 foot-pounds. So now I got all the pulleys in. Make sure your timing marks are lined up. This one is a little off. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that later. So now I'm going to pull the grenade pin. You probably want to keep this for next time, if there is a next time. In case if you do any more Subaru timing belts, you have a spare pin. Now you do not need to bleed the tensioner unless there is a problem with it. It specifically states in the instructions here that if the push rod moves easily, then proceed over to the bleeding procedure. Some guys do it, some guys don't. It's not bad if you do it, but there shouldn't be any issues. I've had this tensioner sitting upright for well over 48 hours, so it shouldn't be an issue. And if you do the bleeding procedure, usually you would need to compress the piston a total of 3 times. So each time you do it should be no less than 1 minute, should be a minute or over. And you would have to use a C-clamp, and you would do that 3 times. You can also do it on the vise as well. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm just going to spin the crankshaft a full 2 revolutions, and recheck the timing marks. I might have to adjust the 1 cam. It's slightly off by a tooth or a tooth and a half. If you feel any kind of resistance, then you need to stop and go back. You should only feel normal resistance of the engine spinning. Do 1 revolution and see if it lines up. So this cam is off by a tooth and a half, I think. So there's a trick that I learned. I'm gonna be using a drill bit and putting it under here, and I'm gonna turn the crank clockwise, and we're gonna move the pulley over 1 tooth. So we place the drill bit in here, and we're gonna turn the crank counterclockwise, and then we'll see how it looks after that. Watch your finger. The belt will snap after I go down. Just be ready to catch the drill bit after it comes to the other end. You hear the belt snap. There you go. Trying to get the drill bit right here. Grab the drill bit and then go back. Go back clockwise. Whoop. Let's align the timing marks. And now I got the timing mark all lined up. It was off by 1 tooth. So make sure everything is lined up properly before you put everything all back together. This hash mark is lined up with the reluctor wheel in the back and lined up on the block here and here and over here. Make sure that this is lined up onto the block here. And make sure that this is lined up on the back of the timing cover here. The timing marks. This mark here with here. So after you spun the engine a couple revolutions, you can do more if you want, just to make sure. And then you just need to put everything all back together and bleed the cooling system. The last thing you want to do here is install the timing belt guide and adjust the clearance for the guide. So I got the bolts in loosely, and I have my makeshift feeler gauge. I was just using a bunch of business card. So I'm going to set this to 1 millimeter. Both of the bolts are loose right now. You can adjust the clearance and then tighten up the bolts after you have done the adjustment. So I inserted the business cards like this all the way, so it takes the shape of the belt. You need to be able to fit it everywhere, covering all of the surface before you snug up the bolts. And then you can tighten up the bolts now. We will verify the clearance after we tighten the bolts. So now you can take this out. You should be able to fit the 1 millimeter business card without any problems. That should be okay. It should go in easily without issue. Just very, very minimal drag. I have a 0.7 millimeter. I can try to insert that, use that as a comparison. It goes in easily. And this one, the 1 millimeter, and that goes in easily as well. So we should be okay. And we have the 1.35. It should not go in as easy. Won't go in at all. So after you're done, you can torque the bolts to 78 to 95 inch-pounds. And once again, you want to make sure everything is torqued down properly before you put all the timing covers back. And you probably want to spin the crankshaft again just to be sure, because I just installed a timing belt guide. So you want to make sure there's no drag on the belt or anything. So we're going to spin this again. The last thing you want is any problems and having to tear down this whole thing apart again. Remove the crank bolt. So now I have the new timing cover. I'm just going to transfer over the rubber seal. Transfer it over here. This just prevents dirt and water contamination. Now, if the seal is too worn out, then you won't be able to reuse them. You will have to get new ones or install this without the seal, but it's not recommended. Just transfer over the seal to the new timing cover, because this timing cover is cracked and damaged. That's it for this one. Then we have the grommet for the cam cover. And turn this over. You have the cam cover here. So we're going to transfer that over. You may have to spray some silicone to get this in easier. It pushes in. No, it's in all the way. Now, there's one bolt here at the bottom that doesn't have the shank. So we'll probably install that one first. There's no shank on this one. This one goes right here on where there's no seal. Because the other ones, they have a shank here. So you install this one first. This one has a shank. And this one doesn't. So we're gonna reinstall the timing cover now. So once you get the timing cover in on this side, you just make sure the seals are lined up, and you can install the bolts. I'm just placing a couple bolts just to get them held in place. So we'll just make sure that the bottom clip for the timing cover is in all the way and pushed in. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the bolts in. Make sure this piece is in all the way. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the bolts in. The bottom of the timing cover. So this is the bolt you want to put in first, because the other ones have the seal running behind it. So this one is the one that doesn't have the shank on it. So I forgot to mention that I cleaned the bolt with a wire wheel. I cleaned most of the rust off, and I sprayed some penetrating oil so it'll be easier to get the bolts back in. So snug the bolts in. Now install the other end of the timing cover. Install the bolts for the timing cover. Install the last two bolts and tighten them up. You just make sure that you unbend the holder, the metal bracket for the O2 sensor harnesses. or the clips, and make sure that the wire is not touching the exhaust or anything. Everything is connected properly. So now we're ready to install the crank pulley. I used a wire brush just to clean the pulley a little bit because there was some dirt and stuff. So I washed it down. You probably want to add some engine oil inside the pulley, so it'll be easier to slide on. You want to add some oil. You want to add a little bit of oil onto the one here, onto the crank that's on the engine. Don't forget the keyway right here is facing the bottom. The keyway here is at the bottom, so that's how we are going to line it up. Once it snaps in place, you can install the crank pulley bolt. Add some oil here at the bottom and onto the threads. You want to lubricate the bottom as well and the threads here. Install the bolt. So we're going to install the holder. And we're going to torque the crank pulley bolt first step to 33 foot-pounds. So you want to torque the bolt to 33. And so now you want to torque this. It says 133 foot-pounds if it's a used bolt. I'm reusing the old bolt. If it's a new bolt, it says 65 degrees as an additional amount. Okay, I'm using the same bolt. So the first step, 33 foot-pounds, and now the second step is 133 foot-pounds. If you're using a new bolt, it would be first step 33 foot-pounds, and then the second step would be a minimum of 65 degrees and a maximum of 75 degrees for the second step. It doesn't mention the torque spec, only the degrees. So anyhow, I'm gonna torque this to 133. Remove the crank holder. So now we're just going to install the new belt and put it in. We don't have the AC belt because the AC compressor clutch, it's seized up, and the pulley as well. Pulley is making noises, so we're not going to worry about the AC belt. Install the belt. Might need to loosen up the adjuster a tiny bit. Loosen the adjustment bolt. So you can push the alternator down so you're able to get the belt on. Make sure it's aligned on the pulleys. Run the adjuster through until it's tight. You may need to adjust these later on after you have ran the vehicle for some time. So you may need to readjust it. So now we're gonna tighten up the mounting bolts, the pivot bolt and the mounting bolt on the alternator. Install the upper radiator hose. I'm putting some new clamps on them. You want to make sure you align the hoses on where the marks are if you're reusing the old radiator hoses. Make sure you put it back on where the old one was, so that way it doesn't leak. Reinstall the air snorkel shroud. Reinstall the clips. I'm going to leave this cover off for now because I need to adjust I may need to adjust the drive belt, but I'll just leave it for the time being. Fill up the cooling system before you start the vehicle. I'm using this the OEM stuff. It's for Subaru, the blue coolant. I didn't want to go to Subaru, use the Subaru coolant because it was too expensive. At the time of this video, the coolant was around maybe $12 per liter. So I said, forget it. I just got the aftermarket stuff. So pour in the coolant. Reconnect the negative terminal of the battery. Now we are going to do the moment of truth, is to start the engine. A lot of smoke and exhaust leak. The engine started fine, it's just that there was a lot of smoke coming because of the residual coolant that's been splashed onto the exhaust. So I'm gonna have to clean that up, and then I'm going to start the engine again and bleed the cooling system. We're just going to pour some water here because there's some leftover coolant that I didn't wash down earlier. That's why I was smoking so much here. Just Just make sure that you don't have a check engine light or any pending codes for anything for a cam crank correlation or anything like that. So in this case, there's no check engine light, so we're all good to go. Now the engine is a little loud because there's an exhaust leak at the front at the catalytic converter, but we have a good running engine now. So I'm just bleeding the cooling system and everything is all good to go. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day and take care.